Who won the combine, Palmer, from your view, from your vantage point? Out of all the Georgia players, which guy do you think performed the best? And I mean top to bottom, talking to the media and doing the workouts and drills and all the above. Total package, who blew you away the most?
So if it's the total package, if it's the on-field and the off-field stuff, Nolan Smith, without a doubt. I mean, everyone that I talked to, that recognized that there was a group of us talking to all the Georgia players. They came up, they talked to us. They're like, hey, are y'all from Georgia? Whatever, blah, 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 blah. They were really impressed with Nolan. I was talking to somebody who covers the Broncos, and he said he saw Nolan out on Thursday night after his performance. They were out at a brewery or something there, restaurant, bar and grill. And he went up to Nolan and said, hey, the Broncos don't have a pick until the third round. You're not going to end up in Denver. But anytime I see you like at an NFL stadium, at an NFL type event, I'm going to come say hello, make a point to shake your hand, because that was what you did on Wednesday in the interviews and the emotion that you could tell that he speaks with. And Thursday on the field, that is a combine that will be remembered for a long, long time. And that's the kind of thing that you want people saying about your program if you're Kirby Smart. I thought Nolan came into this week. Some people were mocking him in the first round. Some people were maybe a little bit lower on him, undersized, a little bit of a tweener type guy there on the edge. Is he going to play hand it down in the dirt? Is he going to play outside linebacker? Did a little bit of both at Georgia, and so he showed that he can do it, but the size doesn't necessarily say it. The measurables don't necessarily say it. After that kind of a performance, especially considering the injury, that was his first time back on the field since the injury, he proved to people that he is not going anywhere, that he is the same kind of player that he was when he got hurt, and I think probably solidified himself as a top first-round pick.
First-round pick for Nolan Smith. I don't know if I see that.
Personally, listen, he had an incredible combine. Don't get me wrong. And Nolan Smith is the guy. If you're a PR office in the NFL, you're falling all over yourself to get him in the room. I think of him honestly still a bit as a gadgety player in the NFL. I think he's going to be kind of a freelance guy, kind of a man without a country, if you will. He's going to sort of fill a lot of needs. I think that puts him toward the back end of the first round if he's in the first round, because those are good teams that have needs addressed in a lot of cases. So Nolan's a luxury piece in that scheme, and I think he can be very successful in a role like that. Somebody on our board the other day compared him to like Micah Parsons, and while he doesn't have that size, I think that he can do some of those same things. Now, Matthew C over here mentioned the Falcons taking him. The Falcons to me don't make sense as a fit for him, because I think they have very clear needs at other positions where they don't otherwise. My winner of the combine was Stetson Bennett. I thought that from his on-field performance, listen, Stetson is who he is. He was going to come across in any interviews, have to talk about his recent arrest, all that stuff, right? There were not a lot of instances over Stetson Bennett's career where he was mentioned with guys like Will Levis. And suddenly when you're talking about ball speed and that kind of thing, he's able to step into there. He's throwing the deep ball about as well as anybody that they put on that field in Indianapolis. I thought from a pure measurable standpoint of what he was able to put on tape, Stetson Bennett was the guy who probably helped himself the most when it came to Georgia's guys. I thought it was a big win for him.
Yeah, it's just so hard to showcase, obviously the arm strength, but no one's rushing you. There's no pass rush.
Sure.
You're just throwing a ball deep. But he did it back to back to back. He set him up and knocked him down. His 40 time was good, not great. I was surprised that Max Duggan outran him on that Lucas Oil Stadium turf a little bit. He was fleet of feet, but Stetson Bennett was still quick, and it looked like he kind of let up towards the end. It almost seemed like he didn't really care too much about his 40 time.
And I'll hop in there on that. He told us that when he was asked about the 40, he told us he hadn't run an entire 40, and this is a day before he was set to do it. Real deal. He said he hadn't run an entire 40. He was working on the start. And I think that's what people really care about with the quarterbacks, especially, is that burst. And from I saw clips. I didn't see what people had to say about it. I definitely thought that he was slower towards the end, and maybe let off the gas a little bit around the 30, 35 mark. But out of the gate, I thought he looked pretty good.
There were a lot of guys who had a really good combine. I would probably, just to be different, I would probably go with Nolan, but just to be different, I'll say Darnell Washington. I think it was probably, Nolan and then Stetson and Darnell Washington right there. I mean, the catch, the sub 4.7, this guy, I mean, listen, the similarities with Rob Gronkowski are unreal. And he may be one of the first guys ever to get measured wrong at the NFL Combine, because he came in under 6'7" and then showed that picture on Twitter where he was standing beside a 6'7" guy. Both of them had shoes on. Darnell looked like he was an inch and a half taller. But I mean, here's my thing about Nolan Smith though, is the Micah Parsons thing. Okay, it's tough to imagine a guy being that good because Micah Parsons has been that stinking good at the NFL level.
And he was that good in high school too. I mean,
he was tremendous.
He's a throughout guy.
And he had a really good sophomore year at Penn State, skipped his junior year, all that stuff. Nolan's a little lighter, but Nolan's a little longer. Doesn't have quite as big of hands. He's a little tad bit shorter, but not a lot. Guys, when you're talking about 4.39, listen, you're not just talking about an edge guy. Jake, you called him a gadget guy. I think he's a weapon guy.
I'm not disagreeing with you. But like I said, to me, it's like he can fill a lot of things. He's a nebulous player rather than like a clear, this is what this guy does. He's a floater and sort of a creator. And I think, like I said, that's a very dangerous thing to have. But I don't know if you're a high round team that benefits you as much as it does those lower round teams. I think you need guys that this is what you do because we don't have a guy who does this.
You want a sure thing, like how you can pigeonhole this guy, what you expect from him.
I think
not waiting to see what he's going to do down in and down out. Whereas you may be more willing to take a chance on a utility player.
But when you're a back end of the first round team that is, you've got the quarterback obviously, or you wouldn't be a back end of the first round team. Yep. Kansas City, Philadelphia. You're sitting there, you're looking for a guy that can rush the passer for you on third down, or he can drop into coverage for you on third down. And listen, I think the number one thing teams are going to flip on and watch on film of Nolan Smith, they're going to see a job doer. They're going to see a guy who's going to go out there, he's going to do what he's coached, he's going to play within the scheme, he's going to play with his hair on fire, and he's going to bloody noses. And that's the I mean, not really kind of drawing, parallels to his bloody nose, his first practice at Georgia, put a tampon in there and cut it off. I put tampon in a headline thinking it would hit. Nobody said a word. It just broke my heart.
No, after Tiger Woods tampon gate, no one really knew what to do.
Yeah, we're all staying away from tampon. Apparently, maybe I should not have done that. Maybe I've stepped in something. I'll hear from the ACLU or something. But, I mean, I think the world of the kid, and I think a lot of NFL teams are going to feel that way too, even if he is kind of a man without a home, because we've seen positionless players be very successful in the NFL. And, I think he's kind of I think there's more natural pass rush in Nolan Smith than what we've seen. And I think we were getting a glimpse of it last year before he got hurt. I think we were headed for for probably what would have been, in my mind, a 9, 10, 11 sack year. And, he's coming off the pec injury. He's durable, outside of that one injury, and it was a major injury, a freak injury. He's a special football player. And I'm not saying that he's not a special pass rusher yet. He's not a special, put his hand on the ground guy, but I think you can back him up and play Will. I think he can play Mike. He can do a lot of different things for you. And when you can run like that, man, and you're a football player, that's the thing. He runs like that, and he is a fantastic football player. He's just not an elite pass rusher at this point in the game, and I don't know that we've ever had a chance to really nail that down because, listen, outside of Azeez Ojulari, Kirby Smart hasn't produced a 10-sack guy at Georgia, and while he was at Alabama, he only produced a couple there too, or only one there, and that was Jonathan Allen.
Mikel might be the next guy.
Might be.
Listen, for me though. And the reason I went with Stetson here is that I feel like we thought Nolan had the capability to do maybe not 4.39. That was pretty shocking. but we thought he would run a good 40. We thought Darnell Washington would perform well. Both of those guys were being mocked first prior to the combine. So it depended on who you were looking at. To me, Stetson was the guy who really, I think, improved his stock the most based upon what he was able to put on tape and do in person.
But let me ask you this, Roos. Where do you think he goes after seeing that workout?
I think
is that all that different than where he was probably being mocked anyway? I mean, it's hard to say because a lot of those mocks don't go that far anyway.
I think he gained some ground.
I think he's proud. I think he's got. Listen, low end of the back end of the third would be where I think that. I mean, and I think that there's some out there that have said that before. But you worried about would the arrest knock him down? You know, would these character concerns?
Public intoxication shouldn't knock him down.
I agree with you. But if they're looking for reasons not to take you, so you've got an arrest now on your card, and we think you're short, and
you didn't go to the Senior Bowl.
Your pop gun arm, you know. So he's able to go out there and dispel a lot of those notions, at least in my opinion. Now, the other guy I think that really did him. I mean, not that he needed the favors, but Broderick had a fantastic one.
Broderick had the fastest 40 time of all the O linemen.
Broderick Jones should be a pass rusher,
and I think Jake Rowe called that.
He didn't run as well as I thought he was going to. I thought he might break 4.8. I really did. What did he come in officially? Because I saw the one that was 4.98.
4.98
he was 4.97.
Okay.
Now, if we're just going on,
it ain't Lane Johnson, but he also put on some weight. I mean, 311 pounds and coming in over 6'5". That was pretty remarkable.
Let's just think about that. That much mass moving with that much speed, that's like a physics class homework assignment. It shouldn't be allowed. Your teacher would say you can't do this math. That does not compute. But he did it. I'll take Kelee Ringo as the guy that won, and I'm just going off of 40 times. But we knew he was a workout warrior. We knew he was going to be able to move, and we knew he was going to be able to move quick. But he moved really quick. When you look at all of the players in the combine, Ringo was the 8th fastest guy total, not just out of DBs, not just in his position group, total. And look, there are question marks around the guy, but you wanted to see him perform and actually back up what you think he can do and what he did unofficially. And when the lights were shining the brightest at that stadium, for the combine, that is, he's run, I think, quicker under brighter lights against Alabama in that pick 6. But Kelee with a banner performance showing off his speed. We had a question from Andy Stowe, I think. Did Kenny Max 40 drop him a round or two? No, I don't think it dropped him a round or two. I think based on what we talked about earlier in the week, he was already kind of slated as the number 10, 11, 12 running back in the class anyway. So I don't know if one bad workout is going to drop him, but I'm not sure what y'all think about that.
Wes, and actually on Kelee, he was tied for 6th there at a 4.36. Jake, you pointed out Darnell, and I'm glad that you did, because that was the other one that I considered. Either Nolan or Darnell. I think Darnell did just as much on the field as Nolan did. I think the off the field stuff that Wes included there certainly was incredibly impressive for Nolan. And one name that I think is worth mentioning, and I see Rhett mentioned it here in the comments, Robert Beal. I mean, to me, if Nolan didn't do what he did, Robert Beal might be the name that's getting the most buzz on Thursday, the first day of the combine. Nolan just one-upped him in every aspect of it.
That might have been for me in terms. Yes, Rhett's spot on. He probably played himself into the draft after probably isn't like an undrafted guy. That number he put up on the 40 might have been the most surprising thing that a Georgia player did this week.
Yep. Yeah.
I did not.
4.48.
I did not know Robert Beal was running 4.4.
And honestly, like when he had posted a 4.58, I was like, whoa, like, are you kidding me? Like and then all of a sudden he's a 10th faster than that. I mean, that was pretty incredible. And, there were a lot of guys I feel like who helped themselves. The thing I think that's going to hurt Kenny McIntosh more than anything is running a 4.62 or whatever he ran at 204 pounds. And, there were folks for years because Kenny became a victim of being mismeasured out of high school. Everybody had, I think he came out, he was 6'1", 210, 215. And everybody's thinking, 6'1", 210, he's going to be 6'1", 225 in no time. And he was never that big. Not one time. I don't think there was a time in Kenny McIntosh's Georgia football career where he weighed 210 pounds. He's always been kind of a thin dude. He's never had super big legs or he's never put together compact like DeAndre Swift. You would see him get up beside a guy like Zamir White, and you're like, one of these looks like a grown man, and the other one kind of looks like more of a scat back. Listen, I got all the respect in the world for him. I've talked ad nauseum about how great I think his season was this past year. But I think that if anything's going to hurt him, it's going to be kind of being that slide of frame guy and running like that. But, because James Cook goes in there last year, runs 0.2 of a second faster. And I'm not so sure he was all that different of a weight there. I can't remember what he measured in at, but I think that is probably the combo is going to hurt him a little bit more than anything else.
Another one from Rhett Womack. How about Scott Sinclair and the credit that he deserves for these guys when you do see Nolan top 5 in the entire combine for his vertical, and you watch him run the 40. You see other players, Kelee Ringo out there running quick 40 times. And look, guys have bad workouts, and Kenny will have an opportunity to have a better workout at Georgia's Pro Day if he chooses to do that. But it is a sight to see when you do see so many Georgia players. Yeah, there are a lot of them there, but they're still showing up and doing their jobs. You see them performing, doing great stuff, running in a straight line, but also jumping high. Darnell Washington on that sled. I mean, he made that thing look like he was just pushing a revolving door.
He made it look like how it's supposed to look, and he made the other guys look so much worse in comparison. That was the thing. Like, it's how he did it is how a lineman does it, and how everyone else did it is how a tight end does it.